All right, I think we're all set. I do not feel ready today. I'm not going to lie. I really wish I had a guru to do the tests, the pre-show tests, make sure everything's working as designed, or it is at least like we are planning. Let's kick off this Instagram. Welcome to a Muzzled Chat. I hope you fine folks are having a fantastic day out there. So we're going to do more deep dive. In fact, we're going to wrap up this series, the 1 through 10, from none other than Janet. And I don't want to mispronounce her last name. I believe it's Osborne. I do not want to mispronounce that. I actually have a clip, post her death from a friend, that when we wrap everything up, I'm going to play some of that. It's kind of a words, James. A memorial for Janet. I really want to get to the bottom as to what it was she was uncovering that threatened her very life. She got way too close to exposing things in the evil infrastructure of this world we live in today. Now, I don't know for certain if in fact that is in relation to the Fall of the Cabal series specifically or not. It could have had to do with other things she was involved in and gaining momentum elsewhere. She clearly uncovers a lot, though, in this series, and she was way ahead of her time. And clearly, I just want to pay her a tribute because she's done her research. She's done us all such a service in the deep dive of this all. And I know when we wrap up this series, there's a couple things in episode 10 I quite don't agree with, but that's okay. We can agree to disagree on things. That's a healthy thing and place to land on. But I know in her sequel, if you like history, you're going to love it. She really dives into a lot of the infrastructure of things dating even back. And there is relevance. And she brings it more current. It's just really powerful knowledge and information to have, and we shouldn't be afraid from that. We should be excited to learn all we can. That's what we're here to do, folks, in this life. I tell you what, man, I feel like a gimp today. My hand's throbbing. You know what? Let's read. Let's read from this little book that I've been kind of ignoring for a while. It's 1 Minute Prayers, and kick this off. And I hope it kind of sets a tone, not just for this episode, but for, you know what? Let's just say the day. Because we need daily reminders in this mortal existence. We're so limited. We're so flawed, aren't we? But that's like the beautiful thing. We need to constantly lean on God for his blessing. So we moved out. I forget what it was called. Integrity into Success. And the title on this one is Money versus Value. What good is it for a man to give the whole world and yet lose or forfeit his very self? It's a good question. And that's from Luke 25. You want some true wisdom, man, the Bible is just full of it. The prayer reads, Lord, I caught myself planning. I need to catch my breath. By the way, I will be switching locations and I should be at a lower altitude. Maybe then I won't be so longing for breath. Lord, I caught myself planning how my money could multiply over the years, and not once did I think about your provision and plan. Please help me to find a balance as I strive for success. Present present me with your definition of successful living, so I do not equate my earnings and my future portfolio with true value. I have seen how money destroys people, God. Do not let me rest in monetary securities. You are my provider and the creator of my life strategy. May I become excited as I imagine how my current blessings will multiply as I learn to trust in you. Now, I myself could do better at this, and I just know the greatest blessings of my life up to this point and forever have just come from God. Almost like no rhyme or reason or order. Sometimes it's kind of along the lines of what I'm hoping for, and sometimes it's something entirely different I didn't even realize I needed, even more so. So my prayer for all of you listeners today is that as we go on this journey in life and we learn more about our loving Creator, that your blessings will multiply as you trust in Him more. All right, with that being said, what do we have to fear in this life? My goodness. With what's depicted in the Bible, the war in heaven, the Jesus in the new covenant, I fear no man. And it's so crazy. This world we live in, there's so much topic, so much noise, so many things coming in that it's actually hard to see out this series. Because I know this dates back a bit, but then again, the historical facts that Janet goes through and where that led for her, it's crucial. But it's kind of nice to step out of all that noise. But it keeps boiling down to one singular solution in my eyes. It's no political figure. No matter what happens in this election, and we best show up and drag 10 people in, hold yourself accountable for 10, hold those accountable for 10, and pay it forward. They need to hold others and just show up in masses. But no matter what the outcome, we, the people, are the answer. We are the only answer, in fact, to the solution. I know God obviously is ultimately in control, but He's giving us our free agency. And we were put in this time for a reason. And yes, we live in a wartime. So are we going to unify and bring the glory of God's kingdom down here on earth and really address the evils that have more so been running rampant in our day and age? Or are we just gonna idly sit back and entirely put it into God's hands as though we have no responsibilities? Because we all have a responsibility. Oh, there was another one in there. Maybe that's a Jesus calling it, but it talks about taking care of God's gift, that, like our body. Like we have a responsibility even there. And we really need to vet what we're putting into it to achieve the best version of ourselves, to actually fall into our purpose. Okay. Bit of a rant there. Let's go ahead and dive in to the last and final episode of this 10-part series. And then we'll dive into the sequel. All right, that was the wrong button there. Come on, hand work. Now, I don't know about you, but my sleep's been off. I'm feeling more lethargic. I'm having more cognitive difficulty even expressing my thoughts into words. And I know those are all things that would be hard for someone just to admit. Everyone wants to oh, mate, top shape, A game, on top of the world. Let's not kid ourselves. Let's not fool ourselves. We need to be honest with one another so we can actually potentially acknowledge some bigger things that are happening, because I cannot believe the blanketing that is happening in our skies. Just think on it for a second. With the largest distribution of wealth throughout human history taking place to some of the most evil individuals we've ever known. It's the biggest distribution of wealth. What are they doing with that money? They know we are reluctant, a vast majority of us now, to getting more shots. So you better believe it. They are putting money we can't even fathom into other arenas, other styles of warfare. And they've already identified over 40 different batches that they've been spraying in the skies. Like over 40. And that's what we know of. So I am kind of getting concerned with just even the effects and kind of how I've been feeling, even being off grid, eating healthy, trying to take care of myself. I believe there's just more to it. And it is a silent yet slow impact. And as I've communicated with quite a few other individuals as of late that are in the know, they're also reporting similar effects. And that's greatly concerning. Ideally, it would be amazing to see us just unify and say, enough. No more in Arizona, no more in California, no more in Nevada, no more in Texas, no more across the nation. None. You didn't ask. You didn't get permission. We are not your lab rats. You could say it's for a good cause all you want, but have you done the proper tests to ensure it's not going to have a negative impact on our health or our children? I already know the answer to that. They don't care. So anyway, hopefully continuing all this will bring more clarity once again, historically, all the way up to current, as to why the world is operating the way it is. Rest in peace, Janet. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for all you have done and all your hard work. You are continually blessing us all, and I'm grateful for all this information you've left us.
When everything we've seen in the previous episodes is presented to the public with undeniable evidence, people will be in shock. The normal way to deal with shocking information is to first deny it and ridicule the messenger, then get scared, angry or depressed, and finally accept it as the new paradigm. This will take some time. I believe we're going to need a spokesperson to convey to the world what happened.
Low?
Somebody who will be believed by everybody, Democrats and Republicans alike. That person cannot be Donald Trump. He will be hated by the Democrats, no matter how much peace he brings upon them.
Can you hear okay?
Choose, for the US at least, it would have to be...
I'm sorry. Can you hear okay? Just drop a comment in the chat, please. Thank you.
JFK Jr. This will take some time. I believe we're going to need a spokesperson to convey to the world what happened. Somebody who will be believed by everybody, Democrats and Republicans alike. That person cannot be Donald Trump. He will be hated by the Democrats, no matter how much peace he brings upon them. If I were to choose, for the US at least, it would have to be JFK Jr., John as his father used to call him. Loved and trusted by the entire nation, mourned by every American citizen. Too bad he is no longer amongst us. Or is he? When I first heard about the possibility of him still being alive, I thought, oh God, not yet another conspiracy theory. But when I did some more research, I started doubting.
I don't know about you.
This is an aerial photograph of JFK's memorial.
My sleep's...
That's right. It's a Q. Remember this code? It was engraved in the ship bell on JFK's boat. Where we go one, we go all. JFK was murdered because he wanted to expose and get rid of the Cabal. He intended to start with the CIA just like Donald Trump. He too knew that the CIA had turned into an uncontrollable monster that no president or government could
Such a
restrain.
monster.
He had no idea what he was up against. JFK was
Dang.
assassinated. Nobody will ever forget these pictures. John saluting at his father's funeral. The entire nation mourned. Junior grew up to be a lawyer. He swore he would avenge his father and take his killers to court, even if he had to bring down the government, as he put it. He ran for the New York Senate seat in 1999, as did Hillary Clinton. John would have won by miles. He was born to be the next president of the US. But it wasn't meant to be. On July 16, 1999, his plane crashed into the ocean. There were no survivors. All three on board, John, his wife Carolyn, and her sister Lauren, died upon impact. Their bodies were retrieved and cremated. The remains were kept in Tiffany blue boxes before they were scattered at sea. The entire nation was in shock. Donald J. Trump was in shock. He and John were close friends. When John died, Trump swore he would finish his mission. He promised he would take the murderers of JFK, Sr. and Jr. to court. He swore to drain the swamp. Could John Jr. still be alive? Is it possible that he staged his own death, knowing there was no way he would survive the wrath of the Cabal? The only way to possibly fulfill the mission was to stay low. A master plan was developed, and in the course of 20 years, every single step was analyzed and executed. An entire team was put together with insiders at the top who were willing to give their lives for the cause.
Let's hope.
The annihilation of the Cabal and the liberation of the people.
That's the plan.
They left hints and clues as to inform those who had already woken up to the truth. Trump communicated directly with the people by means of his Twitter account, thus avoiding the corrupted mainstream media. In every speech and every tweet, he used codes for the QAnons to pick up on.
Isn't that crazy? And they censored a sitting president, a social media platform. Unbelievable. There's so many egregious outcomes as you reflect back. How did we not rise up and get so loud to remedy situations immediately?
He used spelling errors such as kafefe instead of coffee, referring to a new act about the saving of all social media posts by the president.
The sound is being
12
funny.
days after Trump's tweet.
Give me a thumbs up or write me a comment if the sound is okay. It just got super loud all of a sudden. I don't know if maybe I have a bad connection. Just let me know if you can hear okay. Thank you.
He wrote hamburgers instead of hamburgers, referring to people who are below the devil and who commit acts that even the devil would consider evil. He wrote smoking gun instead of smoking gun, referring to the secret, perverted orgies of John Podesta and friends. Trump's clumsy behavior showed his victory over Cabal key players. Every move, every so-called error, every little detail was important. Everything was a communication with the people. Remember when Donald and Melania Trump were welcomed by the Obamas at the White House on day one of Trump's presidency? Remember the gift Melania gave to Michelle? The Tiffany blue box? What does that remind you of?
Interesting.
Remember the Tiffany blue coat Melania was wearing? So many references to JFK, Sr. and Jr. There's one more clue that John might indeed have staged his own death. In September 1995, he founded and edited a glossy politics lifestyle magazine called George. In this particular edition, the cover seems to be giving a lot of clues. Survival Guide to the Future? Interesting. Bill Gates on world domination? Okay. Hillary Clinton, Indictment Day. Will Hillary get busted? Wow. The lady reappears in the editing room. In the background, there she is. Platform 2020. That's the year of the next presidential election. And then it reads, buckle your chin strap and hold on as George enters the time warp and re-emerges in the year 2020. Time warp? Is this John communicating that he will reappear in 2020? If John is alive, Would he show himself to the public from time to time? Disguised?
I love you, Janet, but I don't know about all this. But we'll continue. She's still fascinating, and she hits the nail on the head more often than not.
Of course, yet clear enough for the anons to see. Meet Vincent Fusca, presented to the public as a Trump enthusiast and volunteer at the Trump rallies. Now I know, he's not the spitting image of John Jr. Different nose, different mouth, not quite as handsome. But hey, if they can make Eddie Murphy look like this, everything is possible, right? Bear that in mind. Vincent Fusca does not seem to have a past. No old pictures, no family tree, nothing. He suddenly appeared. His name means Conqueror of the Dark. He often wears a fedora hat, very similar to JFK Sr. And this I find interesting. His nose changes. Sometimes it's bigger than John's, sometimes it's not. Now I can understand why John would change his appearance slightly from time to time as to give hints to the QAnons. But why would a Trump fan do such a thing? Then there's the mystery lady in the audience, always close to Fusca. My, doesn't that big smile look familiar? What about Lauren, Carolyn's sister? The two were very close. Maybe Carolyn didn't want to disappear without her? Maybe she was informed on the plan? And maybe she decided to join them and stay low as well? Could this be Carolyn, presented as Fusca's colleague at the rallies? When Q was asked, is JFK Jr. alive? The answer was no. But when Senior dies, Junior no longer is Junior. The question should have been, is JFK alive? Where does all of this leave us? With the perfect spokesman when he is needed. And that may be sooner than you think. As soon as the FISA documents are released, the sealed indictments are unsealed, and the arrests are made, that's when I expect him to step forward.
Oh, that would be nice. A lot of hopium.
The world is in the middle of the greatest transition ever.
Right.
An entire era of suppression of the masses is about to end. I doubt if we can fathom the vastness of what is about to be revealed, nor the impact it will have on the world. Think about it. World peace to start off with. That's literally what Trump said to a reporter who asked if he'd be nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. The prize will be world peace. Can you imagine a world without war? I don't think we can. We've been led to believe that war is normal, that it's part of being human. Well, it's not. Suppression isn't normal.
Part of the devil.
Poverty isn't normal. There's enough food to feed the entire world.
Yes.
The problem is uneven distribution of means, money, and food. Taxes aren't normal. They're not even legal.
Right.
Trump has already stated he will get rid of the Fed and several taxes, including income tax.
We need it.
As we've seen in part 2, they are illegal, unconstitutional. Can you imagine how much money can be saved that way? Can you even begin to imagine what even distribution will look like?
No, we can't.
Then there's the impact all of this is going to have on our use of energy resources. I'm sure you've heard of Nikola Tesla, the famous inventor of many beautiful things in the area of electricity, magnetism, and physics in general. An absolute brilliant mind who wanted to share his invention of free energy with the world.
Yeah.
This was a thorn in the side of the Cabal, who made billions of profit with oil, coal, and other fossil fuels. Tesla was arrested. His work was stolen.
Unbelievable, right?
All his inventions were seized by the American government.
Unbelievable.
John Trump.
Anyone that thinks this government is for them is some sort of messed up. We had a gentleman that made news with a buggy running with a water engine that was estimated only 22 gallons to go coast to coast. Could you imagine what that would have done? Not just for this country, but for the world. But even just trying to think in this country, individually, what that would have presented us. That was too much freedom for the cabal and evil to allow. So clearly, they didn't just murder him. All his research. There's doctors that have had medical breakthroughs just frequently, multiple, and they all get murdered. Like, These are egregious outcomes, and we are all paying the price for these egregious outcomes. There was no greater benefactor than we the people, and we're allowing our government to take that from us. They're not just, they're fulfilling these elitists and what they want done. It's no secret. We're controlled. We're occupied. We're conquered. We must abolish this oppressive, tyrannical government. We would be derelict in our duties as civilians, and no more secrecy. We could unveil, whether they destroyed it all or not, we could unveil undoubtedly some very amazing things, and it would be worth dying for. We got to get more organized. Help us get more organized here on UNMUZZLED Chat. Join us. Follow, share Rumble, share this podcast, share this episode. Reach out to unmuzzledchat@gmail.com. Join the discussions. Like these episodes. That brings it to the forefront. Comment. These are all things we need to get engaged in to build proper momentum. And it's not about me. I frankly don't even want my face out there doing this. I never did. It's about results. It's about outcomes. And I want to see the best version of ourselves and a greater opportunity in this life while we got it. And if we never get it, well, then we got to fight for it with everything we got, whether we win or lose.
Donald's uncle was a brilliant physicist, electrical engineer, and inventor. During World War II, he joined the National Defense Research Committee. In 1943, he reviewed and analyzed the Tesla papers right after Tesla died. That's right, Tesla's inventions on clean and free energy, on anti-gravity, and on much more that has been kept hidden from the public because there was no money in it, fell into the hands of Donald Trump's uncle, whom he loved and greatly admired. Guess how that fits in Q's plan to save the world.
This gets interesting. I don't know. This is out there.
Doesn't John Trump remind you of someone? Somebody very important in the truth movement? Julian Assange. Could he be John Trump's son? Donald Trump's cousin? Let's put it this way. Nothing surprises me anymore, and it sure makes sense. And bearing in mind all the magnificent inventions of both Nikola Tesla and John Trump, I wouldn't be surprised either if they had invented a time machine. After all, if you can bend space, which was definitely within the reach of Tesla, then you can change time. If quantum physics is correct, if you can really jump from one timeline to another parallel one, you can time travel, change certain things and go back without people noticing a thing. Unless you leave clues behind, like a magazine that seems totally out of place. Like Q predictions of specific outcomes that could impossibly have been foretold, not even with the use of quantum probability theory. Is that how Q works? With direct knowledge of the future?
Now, I do find this fascinating, but I'm not going to lie, she loses me here a bit, is on this particular point. This seems too far out for me to really, what would you say, pay it real mind. But nonetheless, it's always important to take a humble, meek stance on everything, right? That we don't know. And once again, like, her batting average to me is insanely good. This is just one, let it land wherever you feel like it for you. And whether you know more than even she does on this matter and you want to talk about it, we're open.
Through various timelines, probability waves? Is that why Trump is still alive? And even missile attacks have been countered? Is this how Q manages to predict exact poll numbers and events to the minute and second precise, as encoded in the Q drops and the Q clock? Is this how the mysterious author Ingersoll Lockwood was able to write a book in 1889 and another one 4 years later about young Baron Trump and his adventures through a space-time portal guided by a man called Don, the master of all masters? All current topics are in the books. Dirty politics, an unexpected candidate, a man called Pence, Russia, even the exact location of the Trump Tower. 1889? The mysterious author also wrote a book about the last president. Furthermore, his name appears on a watch, the Ingersoll Trump Pocket Watch. The same sort of watch used by the White Rabbit in Alice of Wonderland, a tale often referred to by Q. Time travel?
Very interesting. It's fun to consider, isn't it? This life truly is more mystical, more fictional-like than we actually understand with the whole spiritual, the real... I mean, the real illusion is this existence. It truly is.
The world as we know it is about to end. What is awaiting us is a new era of peace, liberty, equality, and harmony. The dawn of the golden age as described in each and every source text. I have grown to fully trust Don, master of all masters. He may seem rude, clumsy, and silly from time to time, but he has earned my trust in the past 2.5 years when I suspiciously followed his every move. He is a genius, a 5D chess player, a man with a huge heart. There will be a relatively short bridge period between the two in which people can adjust to the new paradigm and its energies. I don't think there will be much chaos. Everything is ready to be implemented. A new banking system without interest, new ways to educate our children, a new medical system without poisonous, addictive chemicals, and so on and so forth. All we have to do is be patient. Watch everything
I don't
unfold.
like that.
Trust the plan.
Nope, I don't like
Do
that.
whatever we can to help others wake up and remain focused.
The
and
one
ready.
thing I don't like about the
Ready
whole
to
Q
assist.
narrative.
Ready to help
It's up
create
to us.
a beautiful new world. Some people will wake up faster than others. Remain calm and in service to all. Or as Q once put it so beautifully, as long as you sleep, we will fight for you. Where we go one, we go all.
That's a better statement. Thank you, Janet. Holy smokes. Well, that, I don't know what you thought of that 10-part series, but it, to me, initially, some years back, was very eye-opening and really set me on paths to understanding, once again, why the world is operating the way it is. And then when you dive into biblical truths and things like that, then you recognize the synagogue of Satan. Then you recognize, God's handiwork, the loving creator God, and then the actual God that lives here among us, that is here to destroy. And so many fall under that God as though they're serving our loving God. And then there's so many that actually worship Satan openly. And it's real unfortunate. Why would you choose the lesser of God? Why would you choose the evil God, the destroyer, for you? That's where he gets us. He preys on our weaknesses and gets us selfish and prideful and egotistical to where we would trample over anyone to get, in our mind, what's ours. Unbelievable. But there was a point there I wanted to touch on regarding what she was just speaking. I guess it just had to do with Q. Yeah, no sitting back and trusting any plan. That's the one narrative I've really not liked with Q. Are you kidding me? The only solution to our problems is a unification of we the people. That is it. As much as I want to put hope, I mean, it would be amazing if there were Trump and whatever military groups, some of the sharpest of minds all pulling together to fight on our behalf. Let's just say, oh man, I would love to sit down with Trump right now and actually have a real conversation. And, whether he could trump me and behind closed doors and be like, look, this is why I can't unfold, and this is why I have to support warp speed, and this is why, we're joining with Israel, because of Samson option. There's obviously some things that could be strategically being done, right? And having the choice of, with the shot of millions of loss of life or billions with warfare, you often, I guess, end up with that type of choice regarding whether it's your citizenry or your actual armed forces. So there's a lot we don't know, but my goodness. So I find it irrelevant whether or not any mortals are teaming up on our behalf, and they actually are. There's so much corruption in this country alone. Frankly, they need our support. And I wouldn't, the things that point me towards they aren't in control, and there is no sitting back, is the continual poisoning of all of us, with the ramping up of poisoning in the skies, with the invasion over the border, with already election fraud running rampant already. So are we surprised? We don't have a secure election. We don't have a country at all. We don't have a border. We don't have a country at all. What the Federal Reserve is doing, and there's too many things that it's like if that were the case, wow, excuse me. If that were the case, they're letting it get so far out of hand that they're without unification of we the people, there's no coming back from this. I mean, even the war on information with censorship and more legislation getting passed that is infringing upon our First Amendment. It is so clear, folks. It truly is up to us. All right, that being said, so this does start diving into history, like I said, but it starts getting good. It gets brought full circle the more we continue into this sequel, and it becomes way more relevant. It starts going through some of the pandemic stuff. Pretty powerful connections. Once again, I just really want to hone in on and do a proper assessment, even in my own mind, now that some time has passed, as to why they went after Janet. And that should point us in a direction of clearly something like their number one tactics, that like war that they're waging on us, and we should really be focusing energy towards that. That's just how my mind works. I don't know about you, but anyway, let's go ahead and dive in. Appreciate you guys. I hope you're having a terrific day, and I hope you're enjoying
Rosenkreuz.
this all her amazing work. What an amazing woman. And I love how upbeat, as dark and challenging as some of these topics has been, how upbeat and positive Janet has been throughout this whole thing. What a blessing she is.
I ended my 10-part documentary about the fall of the Cabal with a promise. A promise to dive deeper into the story behind the darkness in this world we live in. What happened? How did we get to this point?
Good
Who
question.
is the Cabal? And what is their exact agenda? Are
Good
you
question.
ready to go further down the rabbit hole? Well, fasten your seatbelts, for this is going to be one heck of a ride. Those who rule the world, those truly in command, are referred to as the Illuminati or Cabal. Not many people are aware of their presence, let alone their identity. We have grown to believe that our countries are ruled by presidents, by kings and queens and
Right.
governments. But the truth is, these are mere puppets on a string. Who pull the strings? This small yet mysterious and elusive group that forms shadow governments and who play the world and all of humanity like gods playing chess. Is the Cabal for real? Or is it just a myth, blown out of proportion by conspiracy theorists looking for a common enemy? The Cabal is very real. The evidence can be found throughout history, abundantly. This story covers thousands of years. It is crucial information to understand the modern-day Cabal and the evil we are dealing with. Not only that, it is the only way I can possibly reveal to you the best-kept and most shocking secret in the history of mankind. Let's go all the way back in history to the most ancient civilization on Earth, Sumer. Ancient Sumer, 7 millennia ago. What we know stems back from the early writings on clay tablets, written down in cuneiform script. The Sumerian civilization was a highly developed and advanced society with grand cities, temples, and pyramids. Archaeological findings tell us the cities had amazing mosaics, elaborate streets, housing blocks, indoor plumbing, toilets with water flushing systems, and much more. The Temple of Inanna at the ancient city of Uruk still baffles us today with its splendor, its vibrant colors and depictions of strange animal creatures. Inanna was the ancient Sumerian goddess associated with love, beauty, sex, war, and political power. She was later worshipped by the Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians under the name of Ishtar or Asherah. Many researchers now believe she was Isis of the Egyptians, Diana of the Greeks, and Venus of the Romans. She was the consort of Baal, the deity who demanded child sacrifice. We shall later see whether this is true or not. The ancient culture of Sumer and its polytheistic religion expanded towards the northwest into Babylonia, then even further west. It went to what we now know as Canaan and Phoenicia. More about this group later. There was a second group. They went further north, all the way to the region we now call Ukraine and southern Russia, between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea. There they took on the name Khazars and called their new homeland the Kingdom of Khazaria after their ancestors. Joseph Khagam, king of the Khazars, explained in a letter to the foreign secretary of the Caliph of Cordoba, Hasdai ibn Chaprut, that his people were direct descendants from Japheth, son of Noah. Khazaria was right at the center of the northwestern Silk Road. Merchants who traveled through Khazaria had to pay toll, a lucrative way to swell the coffers of the kingdom. The Khazars were different than the peoples from the surrounding countries. They were described as thieves and spies. They were said to be lawless people who lived a life of sin, of sexual extremities.
All right, we're going to take a pause on history here. History's fascinating, okay? This is crazy, all these ancient civilizations and how advanced they actually became. It does clearly seem as though some of the narratives are also surprisingly being controlled and kept from us. And why would that be? Obviously, to our detriment. But just want to state or give a shout out to John, none other than John and Scott from the Forgotten Soldiers. Folks, he is doing a fantastic job over at the Forgotten Soldiers podcast. If you haven't subscribed, be sure to check one of our recent episodes where we have that. You just simply type in the Forgotten Soldiers. He's doing amazing things, creating great momentum going to war on behalf of us basically every single day. And we just need more of that. Once again, as we have already covered in this episode, it's an assembly. It is up to us. No one is riding in on a white horse. It's why we were put in this time. And I get it. You know, fifth generation warfare, it's hard to grasp. That's why we're doing this deep dive from Janet. It's such a blessing. All the information she brings to the forefront to really help us see the picture as to why the world is the way it is. Then with that knowledge, we should be more accepting to what is going on in the fifth generation warfare and World War III, essentially, that's taking place, and come to terms with this reality so we can actually face it. Because, golly, just think about it. If World War III effectively continues and it's fifth generation warfare and we're not necessarily acknowledging it, where is that going to lead when people are living, let's say, too many in ignorance? It's not good. So we have great opportunity. And as frustrating as it gets for me that we're not building enough momentum, we're not, I just got to hand it over to God. Not any one of us individually can shoulder that burden. We could just show up and do what we could do. And that's all we ask from each and every one of you. And we're trying, men like John and Scott are trying to do the heavy lifting, the organizing. And so just by sharing episodes, getting more follows, getting more comments, building more momentum, we'll be able to create more solutions, tangible solutions for all of us. I just know that to be true. The only thing we need is proper support. And it's essentially just help us help you. That's what it boils down to. Whether you just don't trust us that much or not, that's what we're in it for. We want to help you. We want to secure our future. We want to protect our children. We want to reserve our freedoms. We want to gain back the keys to this country. Our government is entirely weaponized against we, the people. Entirely. We must abolish that. We'd be derelict in our duties, not just as citizens of this country, but I believe of children, as children of God. If we just idly sit by. So anyway, let's continue. Love you, John.
And of cruelty. They would murder travelers from other countries and adopt their identity. They were masters of deceit. And last but not least, they were said to worship Baal, also referred to as Moloch, a representation of Lucifer that demanded child sacrifice. In return, Baal...
This dates so back, so far back. When I give that whole rant, I don't know why I didn't just exit this and click right over here. Boom, here we got the Forgotten Soldiers. Here's John right here on Rumble. Click this follow button. I'll even unfollow just to show you how easy it is. Bingo. That's how easy it is. And we need you to do that right now in the masses. Get 10 of your friends. Grab their phones. Get them to follow the Forgotten Soldiers. These warriors are putting everything on the line for your freedoms. Do you care about your freedoms? My gosh. Get behind these folks. So anyway, isn't this crazy? Like, this is not all these human sacrifices and evil worshipers and ceremonies. It all seems so old school, so tribal. Not this era, not now, not with our modern technical advances and we got robots and computers and such and television and TV shows. Folks, they've just recently erected Moloch statues in America and also in other countries. This is 100% happening. And the symbolism within our government, state officials, Hollywood, sports, all this false idolship is putting the symbolism right out in front of your own eyes, and we're too slow to grasp that the spiritual warfare is still happening. In fact, it could potentially, with the world population, be more alive and well now, and I believe it is, than ever before. The synagogue of Satan is truly what's in control, like never before. So we just gonna accept that. The choice is yours.
Was set to reward them with riches, with fame and fortune. The neighboring countries despised them. They hated their sacrificial rituals in which they threw babies into the flames or cut them open to drink their blood and eat their flesh, claiming it gave them incredible power and energy and eternal youth.
Freaks.
Urged by these surrounding peoples, the Russian ruler knew he had to do something. In the year 600, he warned their king, Bulan, that their Luciferian practices had to end. He told him they had to convert to either Judaism, Christianity, or Islam. The choice was his. Bulan chose Judaism. But he did not really convert. He merely took elements from Judaism and forged them into his own Luciferian belief. King Bulan and his people lived on and prospered. Nothing much had changed, except the fact that for outsiders they now called themselves Judeans, which they were not. Mind you, the name Jew wasn't invented until the 18th century.
Wow.
4 centuries went by. In 965 AD, the Russian ruler, Grand Prince of Kiev, Sviatoslav I, felt they had gone too far with their continued devil-worshipping and child sacrifice. He decided to wipe them out. But the Khazars had their spies everywhere, and the Russian cunning plan was brought to the ears of the Khazarian king, who, just in time, fled the country with his 25 wives and 60 concubines.
Jeez.
All of the nobility, plus an enormous amount of gold and silver. The entire exodus of royalty and nobility went via Hungary to Poland, then from Germany southward to France and Spain. Everywhere they went, some were left behind. In order to reveal their true identity, they called themselves Ashkenazi Judeans, knowing very well that their new home countries would not exactly be eagerly awaiting Luciferian Khazars. Ashkenaz, by the way, was the name of a region they inhabited during their migration from Sumer to Babylonia to the Caucasus. Like all regions at that time, this one too was called after the descendants of Noah. Ashkenaz being a grandson of Japheth and great-grandson of Noah. Now don't worry, you don't have to remember any of this. We just need to tell you from a historical point of view. It does explain a lot though, as Japheth, son of Noah, had 2 grandsons, Ashkenaz and Togarma, who became arch-enemies according to rabbinic literature. Now the people we are dealing with here descended from Togarma, yet they adopted the name of their arch-enemy, Ashkenaz. Why? We will soon find out. Just remember this, it was all by design. The Ashkenazim settled in their new homelands and swore to rebuild their empire. In no time, they built up an empire of wealth and influence. After all, they were the royalty and nobility of the ancient bloodlines of Sumer and Babylonia. They had the startup capital, so to speak. They swore to take revenge on Russia, the country they had been expelled from. Their revenge also stretched out to the Jews, as in the original people from Judea. Why? Because back in the time of Princess Jezebel, during a situation in which 2 deities were challenged, they chose Yahweh over Baal. That was their death sentence, as the Khazari and Ashkenazim would never forget nor forgive. Within a few years after they had settled in Europe, they formed an absolute master plan. A plan so big, so intelligent, and so evil, it would change the fate of the world forever. One of the Khazarian families that had joined the exodus from Khazaria was the Rothschild family. That's right, the Rothschilds I talked about in part 2 of my previous series.
Oh boy.
They settled in Frankfurt, Germany, where they became wealthy and powerful through trade and banking. They called southern Germany Ashkenaz, as a tribute to their ancestry. They offered notes to travelers who left behind their gold and silver, safely stored in the vaults of the Rothschilds, banknotes against deposits. This way they collected an unprecedented amount of riches that, combined with the interest they received, were further used to extend their wealth and thus their power. Meyer Amschel Rothschild had 5 sons who became powerful bankers in 5 large cities: Frankfurt, London, Paris, Vienna, and Naples. In no time, they gained financial power over all of Europe. They became the personal bankers of kings and queens. They even became the treasurers of the Vatican.
That's wealth we can't
Before
imagine.
we continue with an event in the 18th century that has been deliberately erased from our history books, we have to pause this storyline and go back to the early Middle Ages for a second storyline. The two will meet during this 18th century event. And when they do, things will fall into place, I promise.
Dang.
We'll start in the age of the Crusades. In 1048 AD, an organization was founded that we refer to as the Order of Malta.
This is the freaking entertainment. This is the information we should be excited to absorb, not Survivor, not what the Rothschilds and BlackRock and these individuals are actually producing to intentionally mislead us and get us absorbed into, frankly, things that just do not matter in this existence. We should be excited. This is what we're here to figure out. Whether Janet hits it right on the head or some of it ebbing and flowing in and out of truth, it's up to us to figure out. Because, my goodness, it's no secret. These individuals have had an insanely negative impact on us and enslaving us right here, right now.
They were founded in Jerusalem. Their goal was dual. One arm of the order ran a hospital in the Holy Land to tend to Christian pilgrims. The other arm was military, tasked by Rome to protect Christians against the local Muslim population. Their symbol? The equal-armed Maltese cross. During the first 50 years of their existence, Jerusalem was Muslim territory. The amount of Christian pilgrims who went to Jerusalem was limited, even by Islamic law. In 1096 AD, the first of 9 wars broke out. They became known as the First Crusade. The Crusades were religious wars initiated and supported by the Roman Catholic Church. Their goal was to recover the Holy Land from Islamic rule. 3 years after the Crusaders had left for the Holy Land, this goal was achieved. Godfrey de Bouillon and his brother Baldwin, leaders of the First Crusade, became rulers of Jerusalem. The Crusades may have been romanticized in literature and movies, but the truth is, they were insane religious wars focused on nothing but death, destruction, and forced conversion. An estimate of nearly 2 million people died. In 1118, a French knight by the name of Hugh de Payan founded a military order together with 8 relatives and friends. They called the order the Poor Knights of the Temple of King Solomon, later known as the Knights Templar. This order sprang forth from a secret society called the Prieuré de Sion, the Priory of Zion, an order that, by the way, is still alive and active today.
Right.
With the support of the King of Jerusalem, the Knights Templar set up headquarters on the sacred Temple Mount. Their official goal was to protect pilgrims on the way from Europe to Jerusalem. In and of itself, this is fascinating. 9 knights were officially appointed to protect Christian pilgrims over a distance of 4,000 to 5,000 kilometers. God only knows how they did it. Their not-so-official goal was to rebuild the Temple of Solomon that had been destroyed in 586 BC by the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. Why this was so important to them, we will show later on. In 1129, the Order of the Knights Templar received the official support of the Roman Catholic Church. The order grew abundantly, and donations came pouring in from all over Europe. The Knights adopted a code of conduct in which they swore unfailing obedience to the Master. According to researchers, the principle of obedience made the Knights Templar lethal. They acted swiftly and with certainty to do as they had been commanded. a force of Templars became an extension of the will of its commander, the Grand Master. At the height of their power, the Order of the Knights Templar comprised of almost 20,000 members. Only 10% were armed knights. The other 90% took care of infrastructure and logistics. Even though the knights had sworn to a life of poverty, the order was excessively rich, owning large plots of lands, farms, vineyards, mills, horses, arms, equipment, the island of Cyprus, and an impressive fleet of ships. All the way from Europe to Jerusalem, in every city, they had monasteries, castles, churches, universities. They were so powerful, they did not need to obey local laws. They could pass freely across all borders. They didn't have to pay taxes, and they were exempt from all authority except that of the Pope. Furthermore, everything they took from the Muslim population that they subjugated and murdered on their way was given to the order. Did they have these privileges in writing? Oh yes, Pope Innocent II took care of everything by signing the papal bull Omne Datum Optimum in 1139. All the order had to do was swear obedience and allegiance to the Pope. There was one area, though, in which the Templars truly excelled: banking. They had a network of banks in many countries that enabled pilgrims to deposit assets in their home countries and withdraw funds in the Holy Land. By the 13th century, the Templars had become such competent and trusted bankers that European kings and nobles who embarked on crusades to the Holy Land often forwarded large cash sums to the Templars that could be withdrawn later so they could pay their armies. The Templars even gave out loans to rulers. They excelled in everything they did, for which they were overloaded with donations, gifts, fame, and fortune. However, in the early 14th century, the Knights Templar met their final destiny: King Philip IV of France. This man was heavily indebted by the order. When he asked for even more loans, the order refused. King Philip decided it was time for the Knights Templar to meet their maker. On Friday the 13th of October 1307, a multitude of knights were arrested, including their Grand Master, Jacques de Molay. After years of imprisonment, he and many others were burned at the stake. Medieval documents state that Molay called out a curse over the king and the Pope, Clement V, who had failed to protect them against the wrath of the king, and who had even dissolved the order through his papal bull, Fox in Excelso. Although the Pope dissolved the order, he did not formally condemn it, which would have been normal in those days. 1 month later, Pope Clement died. 8 months later, King Philip died. Ironically, the Pope's body was burned to ashes by a fire that was caused by lightning that struck the church where he was lying in state. The king died of a stroke he suffered during a hunt. But, contrary to what our history teachers have told us, the Order of the Knights Templar did not end here. New orders were founded with new names that were basically the continuation of the Knights Templar. Think Military Order of Christ in Portugal, Supreme Order of Christ in Italy, and so on and so forth. In every European country, the Knights Templar simply lived on the way they had, as if nothing much had changed. Only the order names had. The Order of the Rosicrucians appeared, founded by Christian Rosenkreuz, a German aristocrat. Was it connected to the Knights Templar? Absolutely. The sign of the equal-armed cross of the Knights Templar was combined with a rose. It can be found in medieval churches across France, Spain, and Portugal. Yet another secret order was founded in 1534, 2 centuries, 2 decades, and 2 years after the official dissolution of the Order of the Knights Templar, the Jesuit Order. The Jesuit Order was a Catholic religious order founded in Paris. Make no mistake, though, the Jesuit Order was not an order of pious monks worshipping Jesus from within the walls of their safe monasteries. It was a military order of extremists who had sworn an oath of absolute submission and obedience to the Pope and to their superior general. Let's have a look at their initiation oath. I declare that I have no opinion or will of myself,
Wow.
But without hesitation, I will obey every command I receive from my superiors in the popes and Jesus Christ militia. I promise further and declare that when the opportunity arises, I will conduct a ruthless war, secretly or publicly, against all heretics, Protestants and liberals, as I am instructed to do, to exterminate and destroy them of the whole earth, and that I will not spare age, sex, or class, and that I will hang up, burn, boil, cook, peel, strangle, and bury these shameful heretics, rip the stomachs and wombs of their wives, and crush the heads of their children against the wall, for the purpose to destroy their horrible race forever.
Wow.
If this cannot be done openly, I will secretly administer the cup with poison, the strangling rope, the steel of the dagger, or the leaden bullet, regardless of the honor, rank, dignity, or authority of the person or persons, as I will at any time be instructed by an agent of the Pope or superior of the Brotherhood of the Holy Faith of the Order of Jesuits. In confirmation of which I hereby dedicate my life, my soul, and all of my corporal powers, and with this dagger which I now receive, I will subscribe my name written in my own blood, in testimony thereof. And should I prove false or weaken in my determination, may my brethren and fellow soldiers of the militia of the Pope cut off my hands and my feet, and my throat from ear to ear, my belly opened, and sulphur burned therein, with all the punishment that can be inflicted upon me on earth, and my soul be tortured by demons in an eternal hell forever.
Wow, that's quite
Not
the
exactly
oath.
what you would expect from an order of Jesus,
No.
right?
No.
Mind you, when we refer to the Jesuit order in relationship to the Cabal,
Holy smokes.
we are not talking about the lower segments of the order. I personally know of Jesuit priests who are wonderful human beings and who've brought a lot of beauty and wisdom into this world. What we're referring to here is the top of the pyramid, the
Right.
absolute elite of
Kinda
the
like
order,
the Freemasons.
better known as the Jesuit Council. Documents from the Golden Age show us that the Jesuit order grew into an extremely powerful group of men. Their influence was
You know what I find interesting? That a lot of individuals seem to not find history interesting, and they're ebbing and flowing out, in and out. And that's okay. You know, we've been caught too much up into the bread and circus of this life. Now, I find Janet's research to be phenomenal and very well done. And she's going over a lot in a very minimal amount of time, believe it or not. You could really dive into these specific stories and situations throughout history, and it more so does become challenging to a degree. I mean, you got to get into the libraries, and this information seems to be getting lost by this generation. So it's crucial information that we absorb, and let's just continue, because she really brings all this full circle and more so relevant into current times. Like these orders, these secret societies, these groups, these evildoers, they never stopped doing what they were doing just because America happened. Are you kidding me? Let's continue.
went far beyond the religious world. It stretched all the way into the secular. They infiltrated the old Masonic lodges. The Masons were skilled tradesmen in the construction trade. They worked with their hands. They worked hard, physical labor. The infiltrated Jesuits were allowed to join because of their contributions in the area of architecture, science, and arts. They were called the Free and Accepted Masons, hence the name Freemasons. The Freemasons were wealthy men with a special knowledge of architecture. It is known that they were especially interested in the Temple of Solomon, just like the Knights Templar.
Interesting.
Furthermore, they were focused on the preservation of esoteric knowledge, for instance, about the Kabbalah. The fascination with the Temple of Solomon is not the only link between the Freemasons and the Knights Templar. Even today, the York Rite administers 3 orders of Masonry, one of which is the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar of the York Rite is a military branch of the Freemasons, just like the medieval order of the Knights Templar. They both have the symbol of the equal-armed Red Cross. So, in short, the Freemasons were a highly secretive group of powerful Jesuits who had infiltrated the countless Masonic lodges across the world. They founded their own umbrella lodge in 1717, the Premier Grand Lodge of England, and that would turn out to be their salvation. What happened? The Jesuits had become way too powerful to the liking of 80 heads of states worldwide who obviously felt threatened by the powerful order. They banned the order and put pressure on the Pope, Clement XIV, to do the same. In 1773, the Pope succumbed to their demand. He promulgated the Dominus ac Redemptor, the Bull of Extinction, that put an end to the Jesuit order. It seems indeed history repeated itself. But guess what? It didn't end there. Just like the Knights Templar before them, they continued using another name. In this case, the Freemasons. 1 year after his betrayal of the Jesuits, Pope Clement was murdered by poisoning. Just like the Luciferian Hussars, the Jesuits too, and their predecessors like the Knights Templar, had a taste for revenge. Now, we promised that our two storylines would come together at an historical event that would massively impact the world. We have finally reached that point. Do you want to know what happened? Follow me to part 2.
Heck yes. Let's keep this going. I find it fascinating. Well done, Janet.
Were murdered. You might ask yourself why the orders we showed in part 1 are so important for our fall of the Cabal. Well, you know the expression, know thy enemy? In order to understand the magnificence of their elite plan and the magnitude of their evil intent, we must first identify whom we are dealing with here. There is so much misinformation going around, not only on the internet, but also in our history books.
Yes.
That, by the way, were never written by neutral observers, but always by the winners.
Not just the winners, the ones that had the means. Because not always did the winners of a war necessarily have the means to write the history. So it kind of landed in the hands of the wealthy and the well-off, which are a lot of these evil societal groups taking advantage of moments in history.
If you don't understand where the Cabal comes from, how far back they go in history, if you don't know how we were led to believe that all of these orders and movements were separate entities that came and went in history, independently and rather harmlessly, then you will most certainly not understand nor believe the true identity of the Cabal. You will miss the fact that we find ourselves at the final stage of their master plan. And if you don't fully comprehend in which danger we find ourselves, you will not know what to do at the moment suprême. That is why we make this documentary, so you can wake up, see through all the lies, and take action to claim your sovereignty back.
Yes.
That's when you'll understand what we said in the previous series. History books will have to be rewritten.
Yes.
Okay, let's see where and when our two storylines meet, shall we? It was in 1748 in southern Germany, Bavaria, in a small town called Ingolstadt. A boy was born. His name was Johann Adam Weishaupt. At the age of 5, his father died. The Jesuits took him under their wings and groomed Adam, who turned out to be a highly intelligent and strong-minded individual, to become a professor in canon law at the Jesuit University of Ingolstadt. He rewrote ancient historical documents in which the ideology of Lucifer would eventually lead to the complete control of the world.
Oh, man.
In 1773, a secret meeting took place between Meyer Amschel Rothschild and a select group of 12 elite Khazarian bankers and businessmen. Remember Rothschild, key player in our first storyline? The excessively wealthy and powerful Ashkenazi Khazarian banker from Frankfurt? Well, Rothschild proposed to join forces and riches with the purpose of world dominance. He had set his eye on Adam Weishaupt, who would be perfect to implement their plans in practice and run their organization. And so, on May the 1st, 1776, Adam Weishaupt founded the Bund der Perfektibilisten, the Order of the Perfectionists, later to be called the Order of the Illuminati. It was the fusion of the financial empire of the Rothschilds and the wealth and power of the military order of the Jesuits.
Not
Their
good.
goal, the creation of a world government and world dominance.
Not good.
Although Weishaupt's name is commonly known among those who study this material, not many people are aware of the fact that he based his Order of the Illuminati on ancient documents, one of which was a letter that was given to him by Rothschild. This letter, referred to as the Constantinople letter, was old and of extreme value to the Ashkenazim. It was 287 years old,
Jeez.
written in 1489 by the Nazi, the chairman of the Jewish High Council in Constantinople, as a response to an outcry for help by the head of the Ashkenazi Jews in France. Remember the Khazarians who had fled Russia and who had changed their name to Ashkenazi Jews? They now felt threatened by the other ethnic groups in France. The king had even told them they had to convert to Christianity. The reply of the Nazi in the Constantinople letter was as follows. As for what you say that the King of France obliges you to become Christians, do it, since you cannot do otherwise, but let the law of Moses be kept in your hearts. As for what you say about the demand to despoil you of your goods, make your sons merchants, that little by little they may despoil the Christians of theirs. As for what you say about their making attempts on your lives, make your sons doctors and apothecaries, that they may take away Christian lives. As for what you say about their destroying your synagogues, make your sons canons and clerics, in order that they may destroy their churches. As for the many other vexations you complain of, arrange that your sons become advocates and lawyers, and see that they always mix themselves up with the affairs of state, in order that by putting Christians under your yoke, you may dominate the world and be avenged on them.
Unbelievable.
Do not swerve from this order we give, for you will find by experience that, humiliated as you are now, you will reach the actuality of power. In other words, they were told to fake a make-believe conversion and to infiltrate every aspect of society, commerce, medicine, religion, and legislation, with the sole purpose of revenge and destruction. How Khazarian.
Golly. Isn't this nuts? And it's played out. It's no joke. It's wild how just a slight breath of fresh air with some freedoms in here in America is to how ignorant and blind we've become to history and biblical truths in the spiritual warfare we're faced with. No wonder they pull God out of the discussions. Like it's crazy. It's a tough walk. I get it. Especially with when they're simultaneously like diminishing our state and even attacking spiritually. There's no secret now. It kind of makes sense as to why even with the vaccine patents, they had integrated like 666 and Luciferian race and evil, just kind of intertwined into it all, trying to disrupt our spiritual connections. This is just unbelievable. Historically speaking, it's unbelievable. I just want to like smack all these people upside the head. You freaking nitwits. Like, we're all visiting here. What are you doing to get revenge? And then just to look how it's playing out now. We must acknowledge what's taking place and not live under the illusion of all this false sense of security that they've allowed essentially at this point, as they've infiltrated everything like they clearly stated right here. Anyway, let's continue. I'm sorry, I could sit here and rant. It is fascinating stuff, isn't it?
Adam Weishaupt founded the Order of the Illuminati in 1776, financed by the Rothschilds, based on this letter, that, by the way, was based on an even older document, more about which in part 4.
Wow.
1 year later, in 1777, Weishaupt joined the Grand Orient Masonic Lodge. He made over 2,000 Jesuits head of the many lodges across the world, thus establishing a massive empire of power, in which the Jesuit order was the spider in the web. Weishaupt then officially left the Jesuit order, so that no suspicion would ever be drawn to the involvement of the Roman Catholic Church and the Jesuit Council in the illustrious plans of the Illuminati. The Rothschilds used their riches to finance wars, as they had found out that by financing both sides of each and every war, they would always win financially.
Right.
They knew no scruples, no mercy.
Gosh.
The alliance of the Luciferian Khazars and the Jesuit order had only just begun. Their goals? Personal gain, wealth and power. The submission of the royal families. The annihilation of the infidels. Protestants, Calvinists, atheists, Muslims, Jews. In other words, the destruction of all religions except the Roman Catholic faith.
Wow.
The destruction of all governments. World dominance of the Pope. And revenge. Revenge on each and every one who had ever betrayed them. Revenge on Russia, first and foremost, the country that had
How freaking idiotic to carry this out generationally. We're so primal in this state. Like, I can't get this level of evil. Like, that's all, of course. Yeah. When Satan, you're worshiping the God of this world, I suppose this is what you're going to get wrapped up in. Unbelievable.
Expelled the Khazars. But not only that. Remember the vengeance of the Jesuits on the Pope, who had betrayed them? Well, they weren't done just yet. For the European kings, France, Spain, England, Austria, and so on, who had banned the Jesuit order, were about to have a taste of their wrath. The first pawn the Illuminati alliance put forward was Napoleon Bonaparte. The fact that the French Revolution was indeed orchestrated by elite secret societies was documented and proven by the French Jesuit Augustin Barruel. He wrote an influential account in which he focused in particular on Adam Weishaupt, founder of the Order of the Illuminati. According to Barruel, the French Revolution was orchestrated by Freemasons and philosophers like Voltaire and Montesquieu. We'll get back to Barruel in a later stage, so remember his name. Napoleon's advisor was a Jesuit, Emmanuel Sillet. He advised Napoleon on where to go and what to do. In today's language, we would call Sillet his handler. According to many historians and researchers, the Jesuits were the ones who orchestrated and directed the French Revolution and the outcome.
Jeez.
Napoleon was a Masonic Grand Master. He was chosen and initiated by the order to play a key role in their planned revolution. Napoleon's brother, Louis Bonaparte, was made Grand Master of the Grand Orient of France. His wife Josephine was a member of the Mason Rite of Adoption. Under Napoleon's rule, the number of lodges in France grew from 300 to 1,220. Napoleon was a puppet of the Cabal. We were led to believe he was the front man, but he was not. The hidden hand that some historians believe was to cover an ulcer, seriously, was actually a common Masonic gesture called the sign of the Master of the Second Veil. Many world leaders have shown this sign throughout the ages. The French Revolution started in 1789 and lasted for 10 long and bloody years of absolute terror. It was the master plan of the Jesuit Council to take revenge on France, to destabilize the country through war, and to destroy the French crown. Their tool? The Jacobins, an extremist political movement founded by none other than Napoleon's advisor, the Jesuit Sillet. The Jacobins caused mayhem across France.
Could you imagine all the discord and information warfare they even played then to create confusion amongst the many? I think back in those days, people more so feared their leaders in these organizations because they didn't have, let's say, the arsenal as the American people have today. So as challenging and confusing as all this is, like, once again, there could be a level of importance of getting to the bottom and full transparency on everything, but that's more so what we need to gain and obtain than dive back in history. We must gain full transparency, and the only way, like with the operations of our current country, is with we the people and gaining back the keys ourselves. Otherwise, it's all an illusion. It's puppets and puppeteers and big corporations, the New World Order, secret societies. It's all these other things. It's not of the people, by the people, for the people. We must get engaged. That's all, once again, it all boils down to. But let's continue, because if anything, this is just going to ramp up that urgency of all of us getting engaged and playing our role, doing our role, fulfilling our roles and responsibilities and duties to our country and our God and our loved ones. We could even, should we take that step even at this point? It's like you could use so many different analogies. Let's stop projecting as though we love our loved ones and we would die for them, when in fact they're under attack. Their very lives, their freedoms, everything is under attack. Like, let's fulfill that love by actually protecting them. And we must engage in the bigger picture in order to do that. It's illusion to think you're protecting them just staying in your bubble. We can't afford that anymore. That's not protecting them. That's delusionally protecting them. There's more to be done. I could lay my case with, how they've weaponized medicine, how they've weaponized the centralization and poisoning of our food and our water and our air and the borders. They're literally weaponizing the government as we speak for the first time in human history to pass orders that could allow military to use lethal force on American citizens. First time in history. I forget that report that, we reported on. RFK's now report on. Stu Peters, many individuals. It's now verified. It's not a declaration. It's I forget. Freaking limited human being. All right, let's continue.
Rioting, plundering, murdering everyone who stood in their way. They left behind a trail of death and destruction wherever they went. The Jesuit plan worked. The guillotines worked overtime.
Wow. Unbelievable. So
the
barbaric.
Jesuit order is the most dangerous of all orders. It has caused more harm than all other orders. The doctrine of the Jesuits entails that their supreme general is the sovereign of sovereigns and master of the world. After the French Revolution had ended, the Napoleonic Wars started. They caused even more instability and destruction, not only to France, but to the many countries Napoleon invaded: Austria, Russia, England, Prussia, Portugal, and Spain, where the royal family was kicked out and Napoleon's older brother was put on the throne. Each and every country that had once banned the Jesuit order and the Khazarian Ashkenazi Jews was now in ruins. This was one of the order's most dominant passions: revenge. During the Napoleonic Wars, the Illuminati alliance deployed their most successful strategy. They financed both the French and the English army. It simply didn't matter who won. War was an absolute revenue model. It was the Duke of Wellington who fought Napoleon and who defeated him at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. Nathan Rothschild, a brilliant and ruthless businessman, had his spies at Waterloo, and he had a private courier system, as he knew that fast communication was vital in business. When it was clear that Napoleon had been defeated, the message was immediately sent to Rothschild, who received the news 2 days prior to anyone else. He then made a brilliant move at the London Stock Exchange. Instead of buying English bonds, the gilts, he sold those he had. The other traders noticed and drew the erroneous conclusion that Napoleon must have won the war. They immediately sold their bonds as well, causing the gilt price to drop dramatically.
Oh my gosh.
That was the moment Rothschild made his move. He bought all the gilts he could lay his hands on at a very low price. By the time the others had noticed and frantically started buying again, Nathan Rothschild was excessively rich.
Wow.
The King of England, George III, was now heavily indebted to Nathan Rothschild, who had financed his wars. Not only had the king to pay back his debts, he had to pay interest on top of it. He was now in the pocket of the Rothschilds. I care not what puppet is placed on the throne of England to rule the empire. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the money supply. Next, 1914.
Quote.
The Illuminati Alliance, that we shall refer to as the Cabal from now on, simply because it's short and to the point, caused World War I, a war initially solely between Austro-Hungary, a dual empire of Austria and Hungary on the one side, and Serbia on the other. What happened? The ruler of Austro-Hungary, Emperor Franz Joseph I, had no successor to the throne, as his only son had committed suicide. His nephew, Franz Ferdinand, became heir to the throne. But his ideas about politics were very different from his uncle's. Franz Ferdinand wanted to decentralize. He wanted autonomy for the various ethnic groups. He wanted to incorporate Serbia into the dual empire as a political entity equal to Hungary and Austria. He was a thorn in the eye of his uncle, the emperor. Although raised in the Jesuit image of his father and uncle, he had a mind of his own. He refused to adopt his uncle's political vision, and he married the woman he loved, which was so not done within the elite. At the time of extreme internal unrest, the emperor sent his nephew to the border with Serbia, where he and his wife Sophie were murdered.
Wow.
According to the official narrative, it was the Serbian Gavrilo Princip who pulled the trigger, and so Austro-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Germany joined forces with Austro-Hungary. England, France, Russia, and later Italy, Romania, Bulgaria, and former Turkey, the Ottoman Empire, came to the aid of Serbia. We all know the results. 4 horror years in trenches, 9 million killed.
Unbelievable.
Germany was in ruins, and that was precisely what the Jesuits had aimed for, as Germany was mostly Protestant. You may remember what it said in the Jesuit oath about Protestants. They would do absolutely anything to destroy their horrible race forever. Some historians may question or even deny the Jesuit background of the rulers of Austro-Hungary, which is odd, as they were prominent members of several Jesuit suborders, such as the Supreme Order of Christ. Emperor Franz Joseph was so high up in the Jesuit council that he was authorized to grant titles such as Prince and Grand Master. In 1880, for instance, he granted this title of Prince of the Holy Roman Empire to the Grand Masters of the Order of Malta. He even founded his own order, the Imperial Austrian Order of Franz Joseph. I promise to go deeper into these orders, plus the evidence of their Jesuit connection, in a later episode. For now, we'll leave it here, as we don't want to get lost in history. After all, we still have to cover the Russian Revolution and World War II in a way it wasn't brought to you in school.
No kidding. Years after. Wow, Illuminati. Such a crazy world. What a crazy existence we live in. Yeah. Whoa. John. Had to switch Facebook. Rumble cut out. I'll have to look into that. Give us just a second here. Let's just take a quick look. Whoa. It seems as though it's still working. I don't know. Might be a connection issue on your end, but I apologize. Rumble's been heavily under attack since its conception. As you can imagine, they are fighting so hard. I am this close. Each day it seems as though like this latest TikTok is about to be gone. Facebook is starting to do funny things and pull things down yet again. I've even had things throttled on X, which is crazy, folks. It's crazy. All these races, tribal talk, when you really hone in on the new covenant through Jesus Christ, how we all have a seat at the table through him and his sacrifice. Like he paved a way for all of God's children. If only we could all truly grasp that love, that clarity, and what beautiful opportunities that would pose in this existence for one another. We would more so live on behalf of one another than oneself. But with the evil one here, he's craftily getting us all so selfish, so self-absorbed that we're feeding into these nonsensical wars and endless what have you. That's why I view what's happening Ukraine to be, it's similar. All wars are bankers' wars. Israel, same thing. Now I get there's good people involved everywhere, but there's also evil. And it's leading to too much loss of innocent life. And for us to support that and get engaged in that without addressing the corruption here is sheer insanity. There's only one supposed so-called race that is now infringing upon our First Amendment like never before. And if evil is effective, because evil would only be behind that. We can't allow them to be effective in that. We lose our First Amendment rights. We are in deep. So we're an hour and 37 minutes in. That was part 2. It'd be nice to mash out one more. Let's take a look. This one's
Kingdom
28. So that will clearly push us over the 2-hour mark. I don't know about you. Drop it in the comments. Would you like to continue today? Should we just go past the 2-hour mark? Who freaking cares? Get through part 3. It's like, I want to cut. Let's do it. Let's just do it. I'm so on fire for all of this. This is what we should be thirsty to obtain in this life. It's so crucial. All right, let's dive in.
Next, or rather simultaneously, it was time for the Cabal to take revenge on Russia, once again. Financed by their partner in crime, the Rothschilds, they started the Russian Revolution. Their pawn and frontman, Lenin. His real name, Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov.
Gosh.
Every historian will agree on the fact that Lenin was heavily influenced by Karl Marx, the founder of communism.
Not good.
But Marx wasn't Russian. He was German. Lenin was Russian, but as he spent many years in exile in Finland, Switzerland, England and Germany, he had become almost a stranger to Russia at the time the first part of the Russian Revolution broke out in February 1917. He was completely westernized. Marx had inspired him massively with his 1848 pamphlet, The Communist Manifesto.
Not good.
Lenin wasn't just inspired by Marxist communism, but also by his Jesuit background. Marx was trained in Germany at a Jesuit school, and after that, he was tutored by Jesuits in the British Museum on the tenets of communism, as confirmed by ex-Jesuit priest Alberto Rivera. Another source of Marx being a Jesuit coadjutor, an assistant bishop, is Otto von Bismarck, who wrote in the North German Gazette that Marx was under control of the Jesuit priest Peter Becks, then Superior General of the Society of Jesus. And there was more Jesuit influence on Lenin. His right-hand man, Felix Dzerzhinsky, who was the head of the Soviet secret police, was a great admirer of the Jesuits. Furthermore, Lenin formally readmitted the Jesuits into Russia in 1922, which is rather strange, as religion was prohibited at that time within communism. But then again, was it strange? The origin of communism lies in the Jesuit ideology, as confirmed by many historians. The Jesuits in the 17th and 18th centuries perfected the first system of communist governance in their reductions in Paraguay. In the New Advent Catholic Encyclopedia, it reads, on the conditions of property, the economic basis was a sort of communism. The land and all that stood upon it was the property of the community. The land was apportioned among the caciques, who allotted it to the families under them. Agricultural instruments and cattle were loaned from the common supply. No one was permitted to sell his plot of land or his house. Very communist indeed. We will see later on in this documentary that even the term social justice was invented by the Jesuits. The first man to name it and write about it was the Jesuit Luigi Tabarelli d'Azeglio. Lenin was a Jesuit puppet who was pushed forward by the Cabal to destabilize and destroy the country. He hated Russia and the Russians. Some of his most famous quotes are, "I spit on Russia. While the state exists, there can be no freedom. When there is freedom, there will be no state. And may 90% of the Russians die and let the other 10% live under communism."
Wow.
The Russian Revolution was a Jesuit attack on the country. Their motive? Revenge. Their pawn? Lenin. Their tool? The Bolshevists.
Wow.
They were the equivalent of the Jacobins during the French Revolution. Millions of people died in Russia between 1917 and 1923, the year in which the Russian Revolution ended with the Bolshevist founding of the Soviet Union.
Wow.
Now, before we move on to World War II, where we will share with you a discovery that, quite frankly, knocked us off our feet, so keep watching, we will first take a look at a chain of events in the US. Maybe you remember from part 2 of the previous series that in 1913, the US Federal Reserve Bank was founded, the mother of all banks, owned by several Cabal families, among which the Rothschilds. Remember what happened to the 3 wealthiest and most influential opponents of the Fed? They conveniently died when the Titanic sank. Less than a year later, the Fed was a done deal.
Wow.
In the US, at that time, about 21,000 banks did not yet fall under the jurisdiction of the Fed. That was, and still is, an absolute lethal thing to do. One might as well commit suicide, as history has proven over and over again, worldwide. In 1914, World War I started, 1 year after the establishment of the Federal Reserve. Between 1914 and 1919, the Fed doubled the money supply, causing a nationwide increase in lending. In 1920, it shrank the money supply, and 5,500 competitor banks went bankrupt. They were bought by the Fed for next to nothing. Between 1921 and 1929, the Fed increased the money supply again. Loans were everywhere. But on October 23, 1929, 2.6 million shares were sold in a frenzy. By whom? Not that hard to guess. The next day, on October 24 at 9 a.m., Wall Street was closed, and the moneymakers who had gathered outside slowly started to realize in a state of shock what had happened. Loans were called in. Investors were forced to sell their shares. This event...
Isn't this the people Jesus represented righteous anger against with a whip? and we're accepting this form of slavery and false currency. It blows my mind, people. What are we doing? Accepting this false system to the enrichment of very evil individuals.
The event became known in history as the Wall Street crash.
Just manipulating everything to their benefits.
The Wall Street crash brought the rest of the world on its knees too. 16,000 competitive non-Fed banks went bankrupt. They too were bought for next to nothing. It was called the greatest robbery in history.
Right.
But it wasn't enough.
Jeez.
The Fed reduced the money supply even further by 30%, causing starvation throughout the US. The Rothschilds had done what they had successfully been doing since the French Revolution, manipulating the stock market at the expense of the people to further increase their wealth and power.
Wow.
Congressman McFadden was so horrified he began impeaching.
Time to grab our damn pitchforks. I swear. Luckily, we got more than pitchforks, and we outnumber them millions to one. What do you call that? Revolution, militia. I frankly, I don't care what they even want to label that, whether that's inciting violence or not. Like, are you kidding me? You know, forget incitement of violence when we can actually hone in on committers of violence and murder and theft and deceit. Are you kidding me right now? And the fact of the matter is they cannot come after us all. In fact, we could turn this whole system, military, police force, everything entirely against them. Enough is enough. How much worse does it need to get for you to fully get engaged? Now, we may have a shot with this election. We may have a shot with people magnifying their voices on these free speech platforms and through the means of people willing to go on the front lines, like UNMUZZLED Chat, like the Forgotten Soldiers, like Stu Peters, like so many other warriors, really willing to stand there and be unmuzzled and point at the real threats we're faced against. And the biggest part of their whole regime is the Western banking systems and the Federal Reserve, and everything they've acquired there has given them financial wealth beyond comprehension. Everything else they've weaponized is obviously kind of just in due to all that, but the time is right now. And it truly is an individual choice. But let's not lie to ourselves as to what is going on. Help us share this message. Help us get to the bottom of all this. It's not, no one man can have much of an impact. It's collectively, and we need you. We need your voice. We need your knowledge, your research, your solutions, your testimonies, your stories, your influence, your gifts. Combined, we can legitimately come up with very powerful solutions.
Impeachment proceedings against the bankers who owned the Federal Reserve. Like I said, he might as well have committed suicide straight away. He was poisoned at a banquet.
Wow.
And the impeachment was abandoned. One simply does not get in the way of the Khazarian cabal. 4 years after the Wall Street crash in 1933...
For frick's sakes, folks, Janet is no longer with us. It seems as though, for the majority of people, it does need to get worse. The fact of the matter is, I don't believe we come back from worse than what we're currently dealing with. So the opportunity truly is right here, right now. And for me, you name it, I'd be willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice for God, for you, for my family, for what's left of this country, for freedom. 100%. Are you willing? Have you gotten to the precipice? Have you gained the knowledge and insight as to what in fact is going on? Does it make a little more sense now as to why I pay zero mind to men in tights throwing a pigskin on a field as though that has any importance? There is a way of gaining blessing in God's favor and showing up for this war none of us asked for. It becomes, it's just, this is what's important. As much as we want to gravitate towards those type of things, unfortunately, we aren't afforded that type of luxury legitimately unless if you actually care about outcomes, then we're not afforded that luxury because that leads to an undesirable outcome. You value your freedoms enough, then there's no choice. And there is great excitement to be had in showing up in this manner. Bless you, Janet. Thank you so much for all this information. We're get through this part, and I can't wait to continue getting through the rest of it, or as much as I can, even tomorrow.
On the pretext of getting out of the Depression, the banks persuaded the government to carry out a national gold seizure on penalty of imprisonment for 10 years.
Unbelievable.
That's right. Under pressure of the Fed, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 6102 to make the impoverished American people give up their gold. They had nothing left. With the gold standard gone, the Cabal had no more limitations on how they could manipulate the money supply.
Unbelievable.
This meant absolute dominance.
Right.
On top of everything else, income tax was created in 1913 to cover the huge amount of money the government was paying the Federal Reserve.
If you are paying income tax, you are funding your enemy. If you don't work in Washington, D.C., and you do not have a government job, you do not need to pay income tax. Go to freedomlawschool.org, get yourself educated, and fill out whatever forms with your employer you need to do to put that filing responsibility on yourself. But the thing is, you got to get the education to feel confident in doing so. But everyone that is educated in this, no one's getting assets seized. No one's having IRS knock on their door. No one's having their bank accounts shut down. They may get minor threats, but when you show up with your education, because this is all illegal taxation, it's literally a mafia. You're just going to cave to the mafia? Let them steal your freaking money and use that money against you and your loved ones? That's freaking insane, man. Too much of that's gone on. I mean, we've been indoctrinated as though, oh, shucks, we're doing the right thing. Paying. Unbelievable. It just shows how manipulatable, malleable, mind-controlled, how effective when you control the information and the education systems and can write history and you have the funds now they have. Unbelievable. I mean, you can see how effective it was even standing up a freaking pandemic. How effective it was coming up with a solution, saying safe and effective when words are supposed to mean something to us, folks. Nothing safe, nothing effective. They shouldn't have any immunity. In fact, they don't. That's just words. They can't They can't stop us from, in fact, showing up and getting extreme accountability on freaking crimes against humanity and war crimes and infringement on the Nuremberg Code. Does anything not matter? Like, nothing even matters? Like, words? Nothing? History? Holy smokes. So red-pilled right now. I'm trying to fight back being black-pilled because that's just where I'm grateful for this opportunity. I truly am. It would be amazing to see more momentum in all the right arenas. It can start right here with you. Just by clicking that like button. It sounds trivial. It sounds non-important, but it is. Clicking that, getting more people on Rumble. That is crucial. Let's get more people on free speech platforms. How is it? This is how dumbed down we have become. That the vast majority are given a choice each and every day right now. The simple fact that so many people are even unawares to Rumble's existence. But even for the ones that are, YouTube is still the major platform. People have a choice. You could show up on YouTube and into slavery, into chains, into a box each and every day. Or you could choose freedom, liberation, independence on Rumble. That's your choice each and every day right now. And yet, YouTube is still the bigger platform. That goes to show wonders as to how dumbed down we have actually become. How self-serving, how wrapped up into the matrix, how wrapped up into the things that frankly, I mean, they do matter to us. Don't get me wrong. And I wish we lived in a non-war time to where we could just enjoy what if the men in tights and the pigskin type of events. But you're ignoring the reality of like the real threats, what's really happening, the era we're born into. And once again, I'm going to say it ad nauseum, we have not just a role, but a responsibility to God, country, our families, to right this ship or do whatever we can to fight for the freedoms for ourselves and for our freaking little. So let's go. Let's continue.
Like we said in part 2 of the previous series, income tax is illegal. We were just never told.
Illegal.
One of the dire consequences of the Wall Street crash was that the Fed called in all international loans. The country that was the worst affected was Germany. After World War I, the country had to pay reparations to the victims, for which it desperately needed the loans, as well as for rebuilding the country and the economy. When the Fed called in their loans, the German economy collapsed. The country dived into a deep depression. That same winter, about 2 million people were unemployed. Less than 3 years later, that number had tripled, meaning a staggering unemployment rate of 40%.
Wow.
The government's expenses to support these people went through the roof. The Chancellor cancelled unemployment support in a desperate move, which made things even worse. More Chancellors came and went. Nobody knew what to do with this mess. People were losing faith in democracy, music to the ears of the Cabal, and sought help from extreme left, the Communists, or extreme right, the Nazis. In January 1933, Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. Although he had a majority of seats in Parliament, he did not have the absolute power he desired. Conveniently, only 4 weeks later, the Reichstag, home of the German Parliament in Berlin, was set on fire, allegedly by communists. Hitler used the event to persuade President Hindenburg to pass an emergency act restricting personal liberty. The act abolished freedom of speech, assembly, privacy, and the press. It abolished the right to own property and the right to trial before imprisonment. It legalized phone tapping and interception of correspondence. The decree was used as the legal basis for the imprisonment of anyone considered to be opponents of the Nazis. People could be imprisoned for any or no reason.
I was wondering how she was going to go about this war and with Germany and regarding Hitler, because there's so much getting revealed right now that is telling a whole other story. And for me, it's just being meek, humble. I don't know it all. I wasn't there. Were you there? Right? So it's interesting. We'll continue with what she's connected, but I guess at the end of it all, we know all these wars were bankers' wars, and I just to hear a lot of, let's just say, Hitler's speeches done in his voice, duped over by AI. Oh my gosh, when you hear it, it's actually just kind of jaw-dropping that, how do I even word it? He's been so demonized, it's a hard one to even listen to. Wow, you for me, I'm even questioning, did AI, let's say, interpret this correctly? Because it sounds like a man fighting against the tyranny more so than what we have been taught. So it makes me even question, like, oh wow, was this translated correctly? So anyway, I just know history has been manipulated. Let's just say that. I know that in World War II heavily for us. I mean, think about the outcomes and how it's led to more tyranny in our own country. So it's been manipulated to certain benefactors. As to what manipulations have been done, hey, that's to be determined. That's to be figured out. It's just fascinating and interesting, and it would be important, once again, to a degree, to get to the bottom of it, but more important, to just gain the transparency from here on out. We must obtain the keys to this stinking country yesterday.
That night, around 4,000 people were arrested, imprisoned, and tortured by the SA. Hitler was now able to imprison communist leaders, so his main opponent during the elections, the Communist Party, fell apart. Hitler's SA intimidated the rest of the opposition, after which he pushed through the Enabling Act that enabled him to make laws without the parliament's consent for the next 4 years. This gave Hitler absolute power. He then banned all political parties. Only the Nazi Party was allowed to exist. The final obstruction to absolute dictatorship was dealt with on June 30, 1934, called the Night of the Long Knives, when 400 SA members who were making demands were slaughtered by Hitler's SS. 1.5 months later, Hitler was in absolute control of Germany. He had become the Führer, meaning he was president, chancellor, and head of the army. Members of the armed forces had to swear a personal oath of allegiance, not to Germany, but to Hitler, which is so Jesuit. Remember the oath of absolute subservience and obedience to the Supreme General? Who was Hitler, really? Hitler came from an interesting family. His mother was Clara Pölzl. His father was Alois Hitler. Alois's mother is where things get really interesting. Her name was Maria Anna Schiggelgruber. She was a simple peasant girl from a village called Stronens near Dollersheim. At the age of 42, still being single, she gave birth to Alois. At the time she conceived, September 1846, Maria lived in Vienna, where she worked as a servant for none other than Anselm Salomon von Rothschild. As soon as the family discovered her pregnancy, she was sent back home, where Alois was born. Maria refused to tell who the father was. It must have been someone with power, for she kept it a secret for the rest of her life, and the father did not feel the need to marry her. When Alois was 5 years of age, Maria married Johann Georg Hitler. Even though many researchers believe he must have been Alois's biological father, he never acknowledged the boy as his own. It wasn't until Alois was 40 years old when he suddenly changed his surname from Schickelgruber to Hitler. Why wait so long if he was truly Hitler's son? That doesn't make sense at all. Alois married Clara Pölsel. It was his third marriage. They had 6 children, 4 of which died at a very young age. The only 2 surviving children were Adolf and his sister Paula. Nobody knows for sure who the biological father of Alois Hitler was. Several names have come forward. Leopold Frankenberger, Johann Nepomuk Hitler, Johann Georg Hitler's brother. But we found no real evidence for any of the above. They all seem to have been used as a decoy to take our attention away from Anselm Salomon von Rothschild. So, why do we believe it was Rothschild who impregnated Maria? Because of several indicators. First of all, 9 months before Alois's birth takes us to September 1836. According to the Rothschild archives in London, Maria worked as a maid for Anselm Salomon von Rothschild. Now there are 2 possible suspects of the rape of Maria. 1, Anselm, who was 33 years old at the time. 2, his father, Salomon Meyer von Rothschild, who was 72 at that time. Now the Rothschild archives contain handwritten correspondence between the son, Anselm, and the London Rothschild Bank, which proves he was in Vienna at the time of the conceived pregnancy. His father, on the other hand, was in Paris. That narrows it down, don't you think? Secondly, in 1876, when Alois was 40 years old, he suddenly inherited a large sum of money. From whom? There wasn't any money in the family. Anselm Salomon von Rothschild died a year and a half prior, the time needed to pass an estate through the probate court. It was the same time Alois suddenly changed his name to Hitler, remember? Was that just a coincidence, or was it a demand by the Rothschilds in order to receive the inheritance, so that he would not be traced back to the Rothschild bloodline? Now please bear in mind that officially the Rothschilds were Jewish. They were the Babylonian Khazars who converted to the Jewish faith under pressure of the Russian king. Call them fake Jews if you like, but to the outside world, Adolf Hitler's father was half Jewish. If this ever came to light, it would be one hell of a scandal. And so, all traces of the Führer Adolf Hitler leading to the Rothschilds had to be erased. In 1921, the Munich Post intercepted a pamphlet that circulated among the early members of Hitler's Nazi party, the NSDAP. The pamphlet's title was Adolf Hitler, Traitor. It dealt with the alleged Jewish blood in Hitler's veins. It accused Hitler of fronting for Jewish finances and for acting like a Jew himself. The Munich Post decided to publish the pamphlet. On the very day that Hitler became Chancellor, the Munich Post was ransacked and its editors and writers were sent off to concentration camps, where they were never heard from again. The Austrian Chancellor Dollfuss investigated Hitler's family origins on 2 occasions. The first investigation, published in 1932, determined that Hitler's father was illegitimate, born to a 42-year-old unmarried woman and an unknown father. The second investigation determined that Hitler's mother was employed as a domestic servant in the residence of Baron Rothschild of Vienna. Shortly after, Hitler ordered the assassination of Dollfuss in 1934. Adolf Hitler once told his nephew, William Patrick Hitler, "These people must not know who I am. You must not know where I come from and which family I'm from." In an effort to erase any evidence that would lead Hitler back to the Rothschilds, not only were people murdered, but the entire village of Dollersheim, where Hitler's grandmother had come from, was completely destroyed on Hitler's orders. Adolf Hitler, the Führer, did not come out of nowhere. We believe he was a Rothschild, maybe an illegitimate one, but still. We saw in the previous series, in part 5, how the illegitimate James Alefantis Rothschild was pushed forward by the family to play a very important part in the US elite under Pizzagate. Well, Adolf Hitler too was pushed forward the same way to influence the outcome of yet another Cabal war. Hitler was a great admirer of the founder of the Jesuits, Ignatius of Loyola. He said, "I learned much from the order of the Jesuits. Until now, there has never been anything more grandiose on the earth than the hierarchical organization of the Catholic Church. I transferred much of this organization into my own party."
Wow.
Hitler called Heinrich Himmler, the inventor and organizer of the Holocaust, the Reichsführer of the SS, and compared him to Ignatius of Loyola. The SS organization has been constituted by Himmler according to the principles of the Jesuit order. The regulations and the spiritual exercises prescribed by Ignatius of Loyola were the model Himmler tried to copy exactly. Himmler's title as Supreme Chief of the SS was to be the equivalent to the Jesuit general, and the whole structure and direction was a close imitation of the Catholic Church's hierarchical order. Absolute obedience was the supreme rule. Every order had to be executed without comment. Hitler presented himself as the solution to all problems. He offered jobs in the war and weapon industry. He got rid of everyone he blamed for Germany's problems. The Jews, the Gypsies, the Communists, the disabled, the homosexuals, and he confiscated all of their money. Hitler was supported by a highly efficient propaganda machine led by SSer Joseph Goebbels, who brainwashed the German people into believing that Hitler was some sort of a messiah and that the Jews were the cause of all evil. Well, we all know what happened. 85 million people died in World War II. But the Cabal wasn't done just yet. As you might know, in the aftermath of World War II, hundreds of thousands of Jews emigrated to the promised land of Israel. But did you know that this migration had already been planned by the Cabal in 1917? 22 years before World War II even started, Palestine was given away, literally, by Arthur James Balfour, Foreign Secretary of the United Kingdom, on behalf of the British government. As if nothing more but a chess piece, a country with inhabitants was given away to, guess who? Lord Lionel Walter Rothschild.
Interesting.
Wait a minute. 1917? The First World War hadn't even ended yet. So how on earth could they be talking about a home for the Jews? The Jewish genocide hadn't even started yet. We're talking about the Balfour Declaration, signed by Balfour himself on the 2nd of November 1917. Dear Lord Rothschild, I have much pleasure in conveying to you, on behalf of His Majesty's government, the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the Cabinet. His Majesty's government view with favour the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavours to facilitate the achievement of this object, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation. Arthur James Balfour.
Zionist.
Neither the Jews nor the Palestinians knew about this. It was yet another brilliant move of nothing but chess pieces by the Cabal.
Right.
What was presented as a benign action in favor of the Jews was, once again, a divide and conquer strategy.
Right.
It could only end in yet another war, this time between Jews and Palestinians. The Jewish people were willingly and knowingly murdered 22 years after the Balfour Declaration was signed. Why? Because the Rothschilds and the other Cabal families had but one focus: Jerusalem. It's not by chance that so many family members have Solomon in their name. The Temple of Solomon, Temple Mount, and therefore the land of Israel was their main priority. We will soon tell you why and expose their deepest and darkest secret. For now, millions of Jewish people were sacrificed in order to get there. There were many more wars to follow, like the Vietnam War, the Cold War. All were instigated and financed on both sides by the Cabal. That's how people across the world were kept in fear, paralyzed and poor, divided and subservient. Once you understand and see their strategy, you cannot unsee it. But the worst was yet to come, for times were changing and the Cabal adapted their strategy as time went along. Keywords in their everlasting plan to conquer the world: hatred, revenge, disdain. These three words were perfectly combined in one document, the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion.
All wars were investigated by the Cabal. Everything was planned. Every pawn necessary was pushed forward to execute the evil plan of the Cabal. The target was to make more money and obtain more power over the backs of the people who bled and died as nothing more than collateral damage. That, my friends, they're using they're behind World War II. They use the atrocities with the Jews now to hide behind a shield of anti-free speech. It's nuts, man. What a crazy, evil group. Unbelievable. The Israel of today is not the Israel of the Bible. Unbelievable. Very crazy, isn't it? Oh my gosh. I'm on the wrong screen here. Man. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining me on this journey and seeking more education and clarification on what is going on. I personally felt as though Janet was like ebbing in and out of like the whole truth. It's really hard to hone in, obviously, reflecting back and seeing these secret societies, seeing certain individuals accumulating such wealth that they legitimately, I mean, the just the glimpse of like this whole Rothschild's like library. So it's not so much history gets written by the victors. It's more so history gets written by those with the means. So I really feel she might got off track on some of the actual truths as to what really took place, and more so what was wrote, what we were taught, what we were indoctrinated to our own detriment. Because you could see the outcomes, and the outcomes have led to more slavery and less freedom. Crazy. What we can sum it all up under is this spiritual warfare that is playing out here in the flesh. And it is more a spiritual battle than a flesh battle in a sense, because we're visiting here. So what matters more? Like winning here in the flesh when we're visiting, or kind of landing at God's feet, our loving creator God, and gaining his favor, his blessing through the sacrifice of his son, Jesus Christ, on behalf of all of us. Just what a crazy world we live in. All this just barbaric shenanigans and wars. For what? We're all God's children. We all bleed the same blood. Why are we acting as though we are better than any others? Try to view humans from God's eyes. You know? Would maybe that have a humbling effect? I guess people got to obtain the truth for themselves as to what the Bible has to teach us. It's so pure, so good and loving. It truly is truth. I look forward to finishing all this up because Janet really unveils a lot more, and it helps gives us a light as to some understanding, once again, as to why the world is the way it is. And the strongholds evil has gotten in today's day and age. And what does that give us? That gives us means to protect ourselves. That gives us a means to potentially even push back if we choose, maintain the freedoms we still have, or gain the ones we've lost. Secure our futures. All right, we are October 31st. Let's go ahead and read, because Jesus is calling, and it states, "Learn to listen to me, even while you are listening to other people. As they open their souls to your scrutiny, you are on holy ground. You need the help of my Spirit to respond appropriately." Holy smokes, I need that. I need that. Father, I ask for that gift for myself and for all the listeners. Holy smokes. I step in it more often than not in my interactions. You need the help of my Spirit to respond appropriately. Ask Him to think through you, live through you, love through you. My own being is alive within you in the person of the Holy Spirit. If you respond to others' needs through your unaided thought processes, you offer them dry crumbs. When the Spirit empowers your listening and speaking, my streams of living water flow through you to other people. Be a channel of my love, joy, peace, and by listening to me as you listen to others. Holy smokes. My brothers and sisters, I hope I'm not just providing a bunch of dry crumbs. I pray that to no accolades, all glory to our loving Creator God in Jesus Christ, that we're able to more so embody the Spirit and provide more so the streams of living water flowing through this platform to all of you. Man, there's 3 biblical references here. I challenge you to check them out. We have Exodus 3:5, 1 Corinthians 6:19, and John 7:38 and 39. We're about to go into November, and just as I guess a note on that, November reads a quote, and it's a scripture. "And my God will meet all your needs according to His glorious riches in Christ Jesus." Philippians 4:19. That is a great scripture going into the month of November, because there are, who knows what's in store? Who knows? But through God, He will meet all our needs according to His glorious riches in Jesus Christ. Let's seek that through His Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. I'm so grateful. This can become very challenging on so many fronts to be continually showing up. It's, forget the bank account. Who cares about the bank account at this point? I'm enduring great sacrifice to be here, but that's nor here nor there. The more so greater challenge for me is I would like to see more blessing being had, with more growth, more engagement, more people stepping forward. After all, I give this platform to God and to God's children, you. And if you feel impressed and you want to seize the opportunity to have your voice magnified and come on the podcast, please reach out to unmuzzledchat@gmail.com. It's collectively through all of us. I know I'm a broken record, but it's time that we unite. We set aside our differences. We actually apply the biblical teachings and walk in the Spirit and see past each other's flaws, like the speck in someone else's eye when we got a plank or a log in our own. There's just, I continually step in it too, but it's just, I'm having a hard time putting words together. I have my own limitations, and and that's why I worry about some of the warfare, because I'd hate to see more of our abilities taken away from us so we can more so fulfill His word and His will for us. But I'm grateful for this moment, because it just, I feel it even as I'm tripping up with words. It's still, He's like not closing that door to showing up for me in a way and filling me with some of the love He has and the fruit of His Spirit. And I'm so grateful for that. And I only hope you guys all get to experience that each and every day. It can be challenging in this time, but thank you so much for joining us here today. And I look forward to getting into this more. Hopefully I'll be set up in a good place that we can continue this tomorrow. I love you. May our loving Creator bless you and bless this broken nation. Give us a way forward, or at least the peace to unite as your children and bring more people into your loving embrace. That's what's important. I love you all. Here I am, just broken record. I'm kind of broken. All right, y'all, take care.